Hey everyone, welcome back to Switch Top. Today, I'm counting down my top 15 RPGs that deserve a replay on the new gen hardware. These are games that were already great, but will truly shine with improved visuals and frame rates. Let's get started. Trials of Mana stands out as a great RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, thanks to its mix of classic charm and modern, action-focused design. The game builds its identity around real-time combat, letting you swap between party members as you weave light and heavy attacks, dodge telegraphed enemy strikes, and unleash powerful class strikes that charge during battle. Exploration flows smoothly across towns, fields, and dungeons, supported by a progression system where training points enhance stats and unlock abilities, while class changes open distinct light and dark paths that reshape each character's role. Choosing 3 heroes from a cast of 6 also gives the adventure room for variation, as early story arcs shift based on your selected lineup, creating reasons to replay with different teams. On Switch 2, the performance boost is immediately noticeable, with combat, traversal, and cutscenes running at a far steadier, almost consistent 60 frames per second compared to the original's frequent dips. This added fluidity elevates both the pacing and the responsiveness of battles, making the world feel livelier and the action more satisfying.
Fantastic. The magic barrier's in the way.
Monster Hunter Stories 2 becomes an even stronger RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, thanks to the smoother performance that enhances its already engaging blend of monster taming and turn-based strategy. The adventure revolves around building a party composed of your rider, your chosen monstie, and a buddy duo, creating layered combat interactions where each turn matters. Battles run on a power-speed technical triangle, rewarding smart reads that trigger head-to-heads or the satisfying double attacks that can completely shift momentum. Outside combat, exploring monster dens to gather eggs, hatching new companions, and using the rite of channeling to transfer abilities gives you a steady sense of progression as you refine your team. The world itself is filled with gathering spots, roaming monsters, story quests, and optional hunts that keep exploration varied. On Switch 2, the experience feels noticeably refreshed, with far steadier frame rates that approach 60 frames per second and faster load times that smooth out the pacing of travel and encounters. This boost makes animations more responsive and combats snappier, giving each decision more weight without the stutters of the original hardware. Pokémon Scarlet and Violet feel revitalized on Nintendo Switch 2, making them an easy recommendation to revisit thanks to a far smoother experience that finally matches the ambition of their open-world design. The games revolve around free-form exploration across a wide region where wild Pokémon appear naturally in the environment, letting you catch, train, and build teams at your own pace, while tackling 3 narrative paths in any order. Their combat remains rooted in classic turn-based battles, but the shift to seamless overworld encounters helps the pacing, letting you jump between exploration, item gathering, and team adjustments without interruption. Traversal is a major part of the adventure as well, with your partner mount evolving to unlock new movement abilities that open shortcuts, hidden areas, and high-level zones. On Switch 2, the world finally runs with the stability it needed, with frame rates climbing toward a consistent 60 frames per second in most outdoor areas, drastically improving how smooth travel, camera control, and battles feel. Visual clarity is sharper, texture pop-in is reduced, and load times are much faster, making region-wide journeys more enjoyable. Trails in the Sky First Chapter becomes a refreshing RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, blending its character-driven storytelling with smoother performance and updated visuals. The remake captures the charm of Estelle and Joshua's journey across Liberl, where exploration of towns, scenic routes, and small mysteries gradually leads into a deeper political plot. Its combat system mixes grid-based positioning with turn-based strategy, letting you use arts, crafts, and movement to control the flow of encounters while managing buffs and spell timing. Outside battles, the game encourages slower, thoughtful pacing, talking to NPCs, taking guild requests, and uncovering details that build the world's personality. On Switch 2, the added performance modes allow you to choose between sharper visuals or higher fluidity. The 60 frames per second option gives exploration and combat a smoother feel, though it occasionally dips during busy scenes, while the higher resolution 30 frames per second mode keeps a steady presentation with improved clarity and cleaner geometry. Both benefit from faster loading and better draw distances, making the world feel more cohesive than on older hardware.
Let us begin.
My turn. Here we go.
Red Dead Redemption becomes a far more rewarding experience to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with the new hardware giving its open-world Western setting the smoothness and clarity it always deserved. The game's structure blends horseback travel, exploration, shootouts, and narrative-driven missions across deserts, border towns, and rugged plains, creating a world that feels alive with bandits, wildlife, and wandering travelers. Combat leans on a mix of precision gunplay, cover, and the signature Deadeye system that lets you slow time and mark targets, giving every encounter a satisfying rhythm, whether you're clearing hideouts or entering duels. Outside missions, the frontier offers hunting, gambling, bounties, side stories, and moments of downtime, where simply riding through changing weather and shifting light becomes its own reward. On Switch 2, the experience is elevated by a far steadier frame rate that pushes toward a solid 60 frames per second, sharpening responsiveness in shootouts and making horseback travel feel fluid rather than choppy. Visuals benefit from cleaner image quality and better draw distance, while load times are noticeably faster, helping the world feel seamless.
Let's go! Yeah!
Romancing Saga 2: Revenge of the Seven becomes a richer experience to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, blending its generational storytelling with a far smoother technical foundation. The remake's structure centers on a dynasty of emperors, each inheriting abilities, resources, and decisions from their predecessors as you guide an evolving empire across decades. Its turn-based combat leans heavily on timing, formation choices, and weapon-specific techniques, with party members learning new skills mid-battle through the classic Glimmer system that keeps encounters dynamic. Exploration and scenario progression remain flexible, letting you tackle regions, political choices, and threats in a non-linear order while shaping how the seven heroes rise across eras. On Switch 2, the adventure feels noticeably sharper, with frame rates climbing to a near constant 60 frames per second that makes animations cleaner, menus snappier, and overworld movement far more responsive than on earlier hardware. Visuals benefit from steadier rendering and fewer hitches, while quicker loading helps transitions feel more modern and cohesive.
I can do this.
The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild feels renewed on Nintendo Switch 2, with smoother performance giving its vast open world a fresh sense of fluidity. The game thrives on player freedom, letting you climb almost any surface, glide across valleys, experiment with physics-driven puzzles, and approach encounters with creativity rather than strict rules. Combat blends timing, weapon management, ranged options, and environmental tricks, while survival elements like cooking, resource gathering, and managing stamina help shape the rhythm of exploration. Shrines, hidden caves, and roaming threats encourage constant detours, rewarding curiosity with gear, secrets, and clever puzzle variations. On Switch 2, Hyrule finally benefits from a far steadier frame rate that trends toward a clean 60 frames per second, giving battles, traversal, and camera control a sharp responsiveness that the original hardware often struggled to maintain. The smoother motion heightens gliding, horseback riding, and climbing, making the world feel more seamless, while faster loading cuts down on downtime when entering shrines or fast traveling. Skyrim feels revitalized on Nintendo Switch 2, making its sprawling fantasy world far more enjoyable to revisit thanks to smoother, steadier performance. The game's strength has always been its freedom-driven design, letting you shape your character through the skills you actually use, whether that's sneaking through dungeons with a bow, mastering destructive magic, or charging in with heavy armor and greatswords. Exploration remains endlessly rewarding, with snow-covered peaks, forgotten ruins, winding caves, and scattered settlements waiting to be discovered at your own pace. Combat blends melee, ranged, spells, and stealth in first or third person, supported by perk trees that steer your build in unique directions across multiple playthroughs. Crafting, alchemy, enchanting, and guild storylines all add layers that keep progression engaging long after the first hours. On Switch 2, the experience becomes noticeably smoother, with frame rates holding far more stable during busy battles, dense forests, and large towns. This stability helps movement, aiming, and combat feel more responsive, while quicker loading improves transitions between caves, cities, and fast travel points.
They say Helgen got hit by a dragon. One of those horrors comes here.
Shin Megami Tensei 5: Vengeance remains a strong RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, thanks to its deep demon-collecting systems, sharp turn-based combat, and expanded storyline, all supported by steadier performance on the newer hardware. The game builds its identity around the press-turn system, where exploiting weaknesses grants extra actions and allows for clever chains that can wipe out enemies before they react. Recruiting demons through negotiation adds personality and unpredictability, while fusion, essences, and miracle upgrades let you craft highly specialized teams that feel distinctly your own. Exploration across ruined landscapes mixes light platforming, navigation shortcuts, and hidden items that reward curiosity, and the alternate story route brings new areas, quests, and demons that give returning players a fresh angle. On Switch 2, the game doesn't make the leap to 60 frames per second, but the frame rate holds a much steadier 30 frames per second with fewer dips, giving exploration and combat a cleaner, more stable feel than the previous version. This consistency helps battles flow more smoothly and reduces stutter in open zones, keeping focus on strategic planning and team building.
Your turn! Go!
No Man's Sky becomes a far more satisfying galaxy to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with the smoother performance giving its exploration-driven design room to breathe. The game is built around roaming an enormous procedurally generated universe, landing on planets with distinct biomes, gathering resources, scanning wildlife, and slowly upgrading your gear, ship, and exosuit as you push deeper into the stars. Crafting, inventory management, and survival elements shape every expedition, while base building and settlement management offer long-term goals that reward creativity. Space travel, dogfights, and planetary exploration blend seamlessly, creating a loop where discovering new worlds and expanding your capabilities feels constantly engaging. On Switch 2, the experience gains a welcome boost, with docked play presenting a sharper image and maintaining a steady 30 frames per second, while handheld mode targets higher fluidity, often hovering around 40 frames per second. This improved stability makes flight controls smoother, planet traversal more responsive, and large bases or dense environments less prone to slowdown. Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition becomes a surprisingly strong RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, bringing its dense open world and flexible character systems to hardware that lets you explore Night City anywhere. The game blends first-person shooting, maple combat, stealth, hacking, and dialogue-driven choices, all tied to a progression system built around cyberware upgrades, perks, and gear that let you craft distinct playstyles. Missions encourage experimentation, whether you slip past guards with quick hacks, storm in with heavy weapons, or rely on mobility and melee. The city itself invites constant detours, from street gigs and fixer jobs to hidden interiors and dynamic encounters that make each district feel alive. On Switch 2, the experience is more approachable thanks to two visual modes, a 30 frames per second quality option for a steadier, more cinematic look, and a performance mode that targets around 40 frames per second for smoother motion during combat and fast driving. While it doesn't match high-end platforms, the sharper image quality and increased stability make traversal, gunfights, and hacking feel more responsive than expected on a portable device.
Scavs are still crawling. Clean it up.
Ni no Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom becomes a more enjoyable RPG to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with its colorful world and fluid action combat benefiting from smoother performance. The game follows Evan's journey to rebuild a fallen kingdom, blending real-time battles, open-world exploration, and a light kingdom management system that gradually lets you recruit citizens, construct facilities, and unlock useful upgrades. Combat feels energetic, letting you switch between party members while unleashing melee combos, ranged attacks, and magic, all supported by Higgledies, small elemental creatures that provide buffs, healing, or powerful effects during fights. Exploration across towns, fields, and dungeons keeps the pace varied, with side quests and collectibles woven naturally into the world. On Switch 2, the experience sharpens noticeably. Frame rates trend toward a consistent 60 frames per second in most areas, making movement, camera control, and combat feel far smoother than the previous version. Even in busier encounters with spells and multiple enemies, stability holds much better, allowing the game's bright art style and quick action to shine. The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt feels more enjoyable to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with its vast open world and story-driven design benefiting from smoother, more consistent performance. The game thrives on exploration across war-torn fields, bustling towns, dark forests, and monster-infested ruins, each packed with quests, contracts, and choices that shape your path as Geralt. Combat lets you blend sword techniques with signs, bombs, oils, and crossbows, encouraging preparation and experimentation rather than straightforward brawling. Progression feels flexible, allowing you to tailor builds around alchemy, magic, or melee depending on your style. On Switch 2, the experience is noticeably steadier, as the frame rate holds much closer to a solid 30 frames per second, reducing the dips that once appeared during busy battles or when riding through dense environments. Resolution scaling behaves more smoothly as well, keeping the image clearer during fast movement, while improved loading helps exploration feel more seamless. These enhancements don't overhaul the visuals, but they make the portable experience far more stable, letting the world's atmosphere, storytelling, and combat flow without frequent interruptions.
Oh, come on!
Reminds me of a piece of... Yeah, it's like we never left Vergen. I'm pleased.
Hogwarts Legacy feels more comfortable to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with its blend of exploration, spellcasting, and character progression benefiting from smoother overall performance. The game lets you step into the role of a custom witch or wizard, shaping your abilities through classes, spell tutorials, potion brewing, and talent upgrades that gradually open new approaches to combat and traversal. The world invites constant wandering, from the shifting corridors of the castle to the surrounding forests, villages, and hidden caves, each filled with side quests, puzzles, collectibles, and magical creatures that reinforce the fantasy of being a student discovering their place in a wider world. Combat mixes quick spell rotations, elemental counters, shields, and crowd control abilities, making encounters flexible and dynamic without being overwhelming. On Switch 2, the experience is noticeably steadier, with the frame rate holding a consistent 30 frames per second in both docked and handheld modes, unlike the more uneven performance on the earlier hardware. Upscaling and improved rendering also help the world look clearer, while faster loading smooths out transitions between large areas.
With enhanced graphics and seamless world transitions, you'll be immersed in the Wizarding world like never before. And the new mouse controls on Switch 2 give you even more ways to experience the adventure. Discover the enhanced magic when Hogwarts Legacy launches on the same day.
The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom becomes even more compelling to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2, with its expansive, three-layered world benefiting greatly from smoother performance. The game builds on its predecessor's open-ended structure, letting you roam freely across Hyrule's surface, soar through floating islands, and delve into the eerie depths below. Exploration hinges on creativity, as new abilities let you fuse weapons, construct vehicles, and manipulate objects to solve puzzles or approach battles from unique angles. Combat remains flexible, encouraging stealth, direct clashes, or inventive use of physics and crafted tools. Shrines, caves, sky temples, and underground labyrinths ensure each detour feels rewarding, offering a constant mix of discovery and problem-solving. On Switch 2, the experience sharpens dramatically, with the frame rate holding close to a smooth 60 frames per second, making traversal, gliding, and combat feel far more responsive than on earlier hardware. Visual clarity also benefits from improved scaling and cleaner rendering, while faster loading keeps the pace flowing when shifting between regions or entering shrines. So there you have it, my top 15 RPGs I'm excited to revisit on Nintendo Switch 2. These games already offer incredible experiences, but with improved hardware, they'll be even better. Some need the performance boost badly, while others will just look and run more smoothly. What RPGs are you planning to replay on Switch 2? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to Switch Top for more Nintendo content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.